This one's for all my black sheep besties. I was thinking about this yesterday after I did my video about feeling like the black sheep of the family and, just living this non-traditional life, and how it wasn't that someone labeled me the black sheep or that I, because of my choices, became the black sheep. I feel like it started way earlier than that. It started when I was younger, just feeling like the black sheep. And it wasn't necessarily about what I was doing or the choices I was making. It was more about how I thought about things, how I moved through the world. I remember at a very young age being interviewed for the local newspaper, and they were like, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I don't even know where this came from, but I was like, "I'm going to be the first woman president," which is so funny, especially because in college, I think I remember asking, "Well, what do you have to do to be president? Like, what do you even study in college to be president?" And I think it was socioeconomics and poli-sci and all that. And I'm like, ew, that sounds terrible. But not because I wanted to be president. And I thought in college, I was like, oh, for sure there will be a woman president way before my time comes, which is crazy to think. That still hasn't happened. It's crazy to me to think that I could still be the first woman president. But yeah, that's something I said when I was 6, 7, 8 years old. And most kids are like, I'm going to be a firefighter. I'm going to be a policeman. I'm going to be a, doctor, lawyer, teacher, nurse. Who says I'm going to be the first woman president? And then also just having these ideas about life and love and marriage and divorce and death. As a small kid, I would think these things, my parents got divorced when I was around 8 or 9. And I remember thinking, well, yeah, why would you stay married to someone if you're not happy? And it's back then, it was pretty uncommon to divorce your spouse. But in my mind, I was like, well, that seems silly. If you're not happy, why would you stay with someone? And then getting older and my grandmother dying, or my grandfather, I guess, died first, and then my grandmother. And it was just well, it's okay. They're still here. I still feel them, and maybe not talk to them in the physical sense, but I still feel their presence. I still feel them around me. And those are the things that set me apart, I think, at a very young age from, most people. And it's not that I chose those things. I didn't choose to feel that way about marriage and divorce. I didn't choose to feel that way about death and dying. It was just something that I naturally just thought, this is the order of things. If you aren't in love with someone, why would you stay married to them? If someone hurts you, why would you stay married to them? And the same, back in those days, I remember being in church, and this was kind of where I got turned off with religion. Was people would say, the churches were starting to say, homosexuality wasn't okay, that it was a sin, that you would go to hell if you were homosexual, and you couldn't get married and all of that. And I just remember, because I'm pretty sure I knew of a few people, of course, that weren't married, because you couldn't get married back then, but that loved each other, that were of the same sex, and thinking how lovely of people they were, and how so kind and generous and pure they were. And why would those people not go to heaven just because they love each other instead of, a man or a woman or the opposite sex than what they were? I was like, this doesn't make sense. Why would God punish that? Why would God take two glorious humans and send them to hell when they die because they love each other instead of the opposite sex? So those ideas, they were with me when I was young, like young. And so I would question things. I would question why. I feel like I questioned why all the time. I'm pretty sure I drove my sister insane because it was just, well, why? Well, why? Well, why are people going to go to hell because they coveted their neighbor's wife? Why would they go to hell for that? Why would people who love each other, who are kind, generous, amazing people that just happen to love the same sex, why would they go to hell? Why would God say you're a bad person because you did drugs? People doing drugs are going to hell. I asked so many questions at my sister. She would be like, I don't know why, who put the quarter in you? Like, she thought I was just this machine of questions because it was just, why? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. Make it make sense to me. And I don't remember this, but I think at a certain point, I started to get in trouble for these questions. I started to get outcast a little for these questions, and I don't want to say I was losing friends, but I think that it was causing strife in my relationships, and that's when I started to learn to be the good girl and people please and stop asking so many questions. Stop stop pushing the normal envelope. Like, this is what it is. This is how it is, and this is how it's going to be, and you need to stop asking questions. And it wasn't like my family, or close friends. I think it was just society in general, like in classrooms, and I'm sure in family conversations, it was like, oh, let's just not go there. Let's just not go there. And I stopped asking those questions. I still believed them in my heart that no, if you're a kind, generous, wonderful person, you're going to go to heaven. So I still questioned the authority, and I still questioned the traditional ways of thinking, but I stopped talking about it. And I sort of went inside and really hid a lot of those parts of me to be liked and to fit in and to not be outcast from society, from the groups, from everyone. And thankfully, I do have family members and close friends who would say yeah, it doesn't make sense. And I could feel that validation. I could feel that pressure of questioning the norm lift because other people made, other people realized it didn't make sense either. And I've never stopped questioning those things. I just have done it all internally. I've done it all kind of alone. And I think that's where being the black sheep of the family, being the non-traditional person, it's like looking for other people who are like this and who question these things and who aren't gonna stop asking those questions, and just finding our tribe and our group of people that yeah, keep being the black sheep, because we're the ones that, make it make sense. Make it make sense to me, because if it doesn't make sense, then it's probably not true. And so that's what I was thinking after yesterday's video is, it's not just that I've lived this non-traditional path and this non-traditional life and I'm the black sheep because of all these choices I made. It's because of the way I think about the world and the earth and humanity and nature. It's not it's not, quote unquote normal. And so I've been just really thinking about all these thoughts that I used to have as a kid, and now coming up as an adult, it's like, okay, it's not that I was wrong. I was never wrong. I was just never in the right rooms with the right people who thought the same things or felt the same way about society and norms and how the world works and all of that. So if you're trying to find more people like me, just with those questions that come up, I feel like daily they come up, especially with the political climate going on right now and everything happening in the world. It's like, just the why is constant for me. Make it make sense. So if you're looking for more people, please join my channel, like and subscribe. I'd love to hear in the comments, what was the first thing you remember as a little kid that you thought was totally normal and was really actually quite abnormal from what society's view of it is. So I'd love to hear in the comments. That's my story for today. Thanks so much for being here.